occupational hazards.
Yes. And why would you not
water,
think it is
things like
not an
that.
occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And
without
employers-
getting regular breaks?
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have a
who dies and
responsibility
who
to keep-
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe.
Did you catch that? That moment right there is what happens when performative outrage collides with real legal expertise. Representative Ilhan Omar tried to turn a congressional hearing into a moral purity test, completely sidestepping how the law actually works. She set the trap expecting an emotional response, but the witness, Ms. Milito, didn't bite. Instead of playing along, she stuck to the facts and dismantled the narrative in real time. If you want to see what choosing evidence over emotion looks like, stay tuned because this breakdown says more than Omar ever intended.
Excuse me. It is a public health hazard, and OSHA is limited by what the authority that Congress has delegated it. OSHA has authority to regulate and oversee occupational hazards.
Yeah, standards,
And-
right?
Occupational hazards.
Yes. And why
Eating
would you
hot,
not, why would you
eating
not
water,
think it is
things like
not an
that.
occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And
without
employers-
getting regular breaks?
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have a
who dies and
responsibility
who
to keep-
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe, most definitely, but that is separate and apart from
So you're
OSHA's
saying
authority.
those employers who have not done that, who have seen people die at their workplaces in places like Texas, it's just because they're bad people and we shouldn't have the responsibility of protecting the workers is what I hear.
That's not what I'm saying, but thank you.
I thank the gentlelady. I recognize now the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last Congress, this committee held the Biden administration accountable for its anti-worker agenda. And now that we've turned the page, we have an incredible opportunity to enable and facilitate the pro-worker, pro-small business, pro-growth policies that are coming from the new administration. But this committee's oversight proved particularly critical when President Biden made the baffling decision to elevate the state labor secretary with the very worst record in the country to be his Secretary of Labor. And our committee actually brought in Ms. Julie Su for a hearing at that time where we were able to show how she was the Secretary of Labor for the state, California, that had the single highest rate of unemployment in the entire country in her tenure, first out of 50, had the lowest rate of wage growth in the entire country, 50 out of 50, and had the highest rate of real poverty in the country, first out of 50. And then that she also was the architect of the most disgraceful, notorious labor law in modern U.S. history, that being AB 5. Now, after she came in for a hearing here, the U.S. Senate refused to confirm her. Her nomination was stopped with bipartisan opposition. But of course, the Biden administration chose to lawlessly keep her at the helm of the Labor Department for the entire tenure of the administration. And in that position, she did indeed attempt to federalize the failed policies of California by implementing a new rule that was designed to mimic the effects of AB 5 in California as far as limiting the freedom of independent contractors. Now, the good news is that that regulation has not yet wreaked the sort of damage that we had anticipated, perhaps because of the illegitimacy of Ms. Su's tenure at the helm of the Labor Department, which shattered all records, by the way, for an acting unconfirmed secretary. But nevertheless, we still find ourselves in the situation where that regulation is on the books, where there continues to be uncertainty, as far as the livelihoods of independent contractors, the ability of small businesses to work for them. So in order to resolve this issue, to provide certainty, to protect the rights of workers and countless enterprises across the country, I've introduced the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, which would specify that the classification standard for an independent contractor comes down to two intuitive factors. Number one being the degree of control of the hiring entity over the work performed, and the second being the opportunity for profit or loss, or the opportunities and risks inherent to entrepreneurship. This is a pretty common sense standard designed to say that if you truly are running your own enterprise, then you don't need to be forced into a W-2 classification. In addition to that, I've introduced the Modern Worker Security Act. So we have the Modern Worker Empowerment Act and the Modern Worker Security Act. This legislation is designed to encourage the use of portable benefits, which will provide a level of a social safety net for independent workers that they can take with them from job to job, things like healthcare and retirement savings. The problem in existing law is that if associations or companies or other groups choose to provide those benefits, then it's kind of like no good deed goes unpunished. You've had that then used by regulators to say, oh, look at that, you're providing benefits, you must be an employer. We're going to force this to be considered a W-2 arrangement, which is not what either party to the transaction wants. So it's had this chilling effect on the ability to offer portable benefits and for workers to have that measure of security. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to move both of those measures through this committee and provide more certainty to millions of folks across the country. I think this will have a tremendous impact on our workforce. And maybe with the remaining time is, Melito, since you mentioned this, the labor regulation, the independent contractor regulation in your testimony, could you just give us a sense of how damaging this uncertainty has been for small businesses?
Yeah, it's created a lot of headaches for business owners who cannot determine whether or not somebody they've hired once a week to come in and do their website improvement needs to be, as you put it, a W-2 person, or because they also do website work for other businesses, can I pay them, as an independent contractor? Because they have their own business, they have their own business card there. The Empowerment Act that you have introduced would be very helpful on that front in codifying that simple, very simple two-factor.
All right, take a breath because there's a lot to unpack here. First, credit where it's due. Miss Melito handled that exchange with remarkable composure. Sitting through a public scolding from a sitting congresswoman who's trying to cast you as a cartoon villain isn't easy, and she never lost her professionalism for a second. The core issue with Representative Ilhan Omar's questioning is simple. She's confusing emotion with jurisdiction. Omar keeps demanding to know why heat exhaustion isn't classified as a workplace hazard, clearly fishing for a yes or no answer that fits her narrative. But Miss Melito gives the correct answer, not the political one. She explains that under current law, heat is treated as a public health concern, not a specific occupational hazard within OSHA's statutory authority. And that distinction matters because words matter. OSHA only has the power Congress gives it. It can regulate defined workplace dangers, but it does not have the authority to regulate the sun. That's not a value judgment, it's a legal reality. Miss Melito is doing what serious professionals do, pointing out that federal agencies cannot act beyond what Congress authorizes. But watch what happens next. The moment Omar hears a legal explanation she doesn't like, she abandons the substance and pivots straight to moral outrage. So it's because they're bad people? That's a textbook straw man, lazy, unserious, and completely disconnected from what was actually said. No one claimed employers are evil. In fact, Miss Melito explicitly acknowledged that employers already have a duty to protect workers. Omar isn't interested in that nuance. She's grandstanding. She wants a viral clip, a fundraising hook, a neat story of heartless corporations versus the pleb while ignoring the inconvenient fact that federal power has limits. This is the broader problem with politicians like Omar. They seem to believe that feeling strongly about an issue should magically expand the law to match their emotions. That passion alone should override statutory language, constitutional boundaries, and separation of powers. Miss Melito was trying to have a serious conversation about statutory authority, about what the law actually allows. Representative Omar was having a conversation about vibes. And frankly, It's embarrassing for a lawmaker to either misunderstand or deliberately ignore the limits of the branch of government she serves in. We need more people in Washington who understand that you can't regulate your way out of every problem by endlessly expanding bureaucracy, and fewer politicians who treat committee hearings like audition tapes for their next fundraising email. Facts matter. The Constitution matters. And in this exchange, Miss Milito made that painfully clear.